I think this is an important discussion, private care versus care agency care. And both me and Miranda have had this gone on, I think it's for 9 years now, where Miranda's needed care for more than that, but I try to do it myself for about a year and a half. But since 2012, we had the care agencies. And we had one care agency, I think, for 4 years and one for 3 years. And the last 2 years has been done by private care. Now, we've never really liked the idea of a care agency, and because of lots of different reasons, but I'll point out a few of them that we think that is some of the most important ones. I mean, there's myriad of them. But what you find in a lot of care agencies, it's really, they don't have time. It doesn't mean that they're bad carers, some of them, but they really don't have time, and the outlay, and there's so many people that come to your house, and they say one's coming, somebody else comes, and all this type of thing. But I've gone through a bit of a list here, and it's the more advantages, because I'm putting more advantages versus less advantages, and the reason for that, I don't want pros and cons, because even less advantage is still an advantage, if you know what I mean. So when you setting up a private care, because I'd had enough of care agencies, I wanted nothing to do with them. And where we live, it's a semi-rural area, so there's not a massive amount of them. There is a few, but there's not masses of choice. So anyway, we have more advantages, so we say. Now, in the UK, we're covered by something called direct payments, which is a governmental body. Where we are it's Darlington and Durham, which are the area, and it's a place called Spennymoor where they're based. Of course, everybody's working from home now. But direct payments are supportive, but they're not just supportive for private care. They are supportive if you're with a care agency. So I've been many times when I don't know where to turn over the years, I've turned to direct payments, and they've always been helpful, even when we were with care agencies, when I had things that I wasn't really keen on. The second one down here, and they're not in any order particularly. Less carers, so you know who's coming. So in private care, you know who's coming. You've got a list of just your people. Miranda probably needs 3 carers. We've got 2 carers, and there's a girl who said she would step in if she could, who's been with us for all this year, really. And she's a really lovely girl, but she said right from the start that she couldn't do it all the time. So anyway, the insurance is paid through direct payments, not the person receiving care. So these are all the private care. Accounts to pay the carers is paid through direct payments and a payroll company, which is in this area we use something called accountability, which again, they're good for not just the people like me who is classed as an employer, but also employees can get in touch with them. The carers receive more money than agencies, which they do. So usually care agencies, and I know it's different amount in different, like sort of London have a London tax system or something like that, where they get paid more as a general rule, people who live there. But they do, people who work for us get more money than at a care agency, even for the people who have been working at a care agency for a long time. Direct payments pay £4 more to agencies. So when you're paying £4 more, and remember they're a governmental body, they tend to try the best for people like, say, me, who's in the private care sector now, as the way this goes. Carers wear their own clothes. That's not really much of an advantage, so no outlay there for employers. Carers tend to keep time better than agency workers. Now, that's not always the case. You get carers who even privately like to turn up late. But With care agency, you can I mean, like sort of we've known people turn up 3/4 an hour late, and that's just not on. You're not told things or anything like that, and it's less stress for the carers. Now, some there's many times when I guess there's carers who have other jobs and they're caring for other people as well, and that we not taught about that because we don't have anybody. We've had 8 carers in 2 years, whereas if you were with an agency, you would probably have around 30 carers. In that time we've had that. So the carers do tend to, and it's not so much the carers' fault that it's the workload that's being put on them. They need a break, and sometimes work around the clock. Yeah, so less stress having to race around to get to places for the carers. Yeah, that's the same on the same lines, isn't it? Accounts people are very helpful, which I've said really above, and these are open to both carers and employees. Yes, direct payments offer courses every so often, and that's like to people like employers. So, I mean, I've done a couple of them before COVID. These were done at Meeting Place, which is a place in Durham where I used to be from. So now they're done on Teams, Microsoft Teams. I mean, some of these like Zoom and Teams, sometimes they just don't work. But anyway, I had a course on Teams with them, and my system just didn't work. So, and there's more chance to improve in your sickness now. That is a massive one, isn't it? I mean, that's the main benefit of this. When you've got less people, they know what they're doing. They come in. Some carers are better than others. They are, but you know what to expect from somebody. So the less advantages with this. So it's not all garden of roses. It isn't. So when you're starting up trying to do the private care, if you go down that road, you have to be committed. The less advantage here can be confusing to get to grips with like you have lots of paperwork, and you do need help from the direct payments and the accounts people. You do, and especially direct payments because they're setting you up. Another one is carers can just leave and not tell you, which we've had, but then we've had it with the agencies, as I say on here. So leave you stranded, as can agencies. Have to look for carers yourself. Now, I've put this may be easy if you live in a town or a city, but can be difficult living in semi-rural or rural areas like we do. So far, we've been fortunate. If the sufferer lives alone, now this I think is probably the biggest downside on this, because I know she's not living alone now, but like sort of she was, and she was severely ill. The poor girl, she could hardly move, and she wouldn't be able to set up a private care thing package. So if a sufferer lives alone and they may not be able to do the paperwork required, even family members may have difficulty, will need some basic PC skills. And I've seen people who I've been on these courses with who haven't got a clue, and there's still things that's confusing even 2 years on. But well, I mean, like, I'm not really an office person, but if there's problems, these people are here to help you. You know what I mean? But I think the biggest downside on that is the sufferer lives alone. I think that would be very difficult if I would say severely ill. If you're moderately ill, you might be able to do it, but and I've put conclusions and that in here, and it says becoming an employer, there are difficulties to get over. Direct payments can help with these, but it's not for everyone. In general, you have to be totally committed to go down the private care path. It is beneficial and being with an agency for many reasons, more than that's mentioned in the list. But of course, this is not, it's not a comprehensive list. And I've done a graph here. So when I say more advantages and less advantages, there's still everything applies. Like say direct payments, you can contact, and I've put that in the pink. It's more advantages and less advantages, but there's still advantages. Even when you work with a care agency, you can still use them. So I made this video trying to be fair, you know, because there's still advantages with all these things. You know, if you don't think there's help there is help, and not so much social services, because sometimes they're not so clever, but um, with that, with some of these bodies, try them and see if you can get some help. You know, it's about marginal gain sometimes. The care quality is generally better when you're with private care, and I've put that as the second one down. The care time, well, usually you get your hours that you do, because sometimes, say for carers, trying their best to get on time, maybe 10 minutes late, but they have to be on the road another 10 minutes, so they're leaving early, so it's like a 40-minute call if it's an hour. The better environment, and this is a better environment not just for the carer, I mean, the carer and the sufferer. It's a better environment. It's less stress. It really is. The care wages are higher than what you would. Private care is a higher wage than what you get at a care agency. I don't have to pay. I could pay one lady one and another lady another. I don't. There's no, for me, there's no favoritism in this game, because if one of them said to the other, I'm on such and such a money, and the other one says, oh, I'm on higher, then you can see what that can cause. Less stress for the carers. I've got that. Now, this is less advantages, so I've got this in the blue here, so blue to the pink. So it's easy to set up. It's not easy to set up. That is a disadvantage. And look for own carers, which I've said is a disadvantage. Not impossible though, as we have done it. And also, like, if you're living in a town or a city, I would imagine that'd be quite easy to do. But it is very difficult. This is the one where it's very difficult for people living alone, especially severely ill. And I would advise just to, if you were living on your own, and your partner or your family can't do paperwork and stuff like that, it's probably best to go with an agency if you can find a good one. So anyway, I just thought this would be a good discussion. It doesn't apply to everybody, because some people are mildly affected, and they can live on their own even, but even if I would say that if you're mildly affected, you can still become severely affected if you don't look after yourself. But I hope somebody's found this interesting. It is an interesting topic to me. But yeah, so thanks very much for watching.